Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Slam Hub Wrestling. Myself Supreet, and this is your AEW Battle of the Belts review for January the 8th, 2022. And I'm joined by Kavit Shah to help me review this. You could say this was their first ever specials, quarterly specials for AEW. How you doing, Kavit?
Hi Supreet, great to be here on Slam Hub. And yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing well. How are you doing? All well?
I'm doing good, man, and I want to get your thoughts on this first specials, AEW Battle of the Belts that they did here.
So yeah, this was AEW's first ever TNT Supercard, like Tony Khan like to say, the first of the quarterly supercards, Battle of the Bells, on which only the titles are going to be defended. It's almost like a pay-per-view, except it's going to be free on television. And I mean, I liked the show. I think I liked it. Yeah. So I started watching it today, and I'll be a bit honest. The card looked a bit underwhelming, especially considering it was the inaugural super card and how much it was hyped. But that being said, it was still a good show, match quality wise, honestly speaking.
Um,
So
in
go
my
on.
opinion, in my opinion, I don't think they really put in the effort to hype up the first ever Battle of the Belts. Like you had some, your usual storytelling what they do with AEW, but it was not that intriguing, in my honest opinion.
You are not wrong there. I think it's a lot to do with the TBS premiere of Dynamite also happening this week. So, like a lot of the whole storytelling and booking wise, everything went into that premiere episode, especially like the Hangman Page and Brand Danielson rematch and the tag team belt match between Lucha Brothers and Jurassic Express. So I think most of their efforts went into that, and as you can see, like both those titles were defended on that episode and not on the Battle of the Belts. And both the titles are like basically like the most two important titles in the company right now. So this kind of felt what's the word, a bit underwhelming compared to that. And like when you look at the match card on paper, it's just like sure the match quality wasn't bad today, but it's just I guess we expected more, and you're not wrong. Like the whole build up to this was a bit of a letdown.
But this show here turned out to be, you could say, pretty decent,
Yeah,
and
it did.
especially knowing the fact that it was just 1 hour.
Hmm. Yes, it they did pretty good for a 1 hour show, especially they especially considering the main title wasn't defended and the tag team title wasn't defended. So what they had left was the interim TNT title, which we will talk about a bit more in a while. The women's title match and the FTW title, which kind of looked shoehorned in, honestly. But yeah, we will talk about that too. I
But
get,
yeah, you were
yeah.
saying.
So I get that they had a lot of the matches on Dynamite itself, and they didn't want to like repeat those matches on Battle of the Belts again. So like what they had left over, they were like, okay, let's just go with that on Battle of the Belts. Yeah. Anyway, go
But
on.
let's start talking about the entire card. But before that, if you're new to Slam Up Wrestling, then make sure to like, share, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Check out our other content. Links provided in the description below. But let's start from the top here. Battle of the Belts. I think they aired this from the Bojangles Coliseum in Charlotte, North Carolina. So they kicked off with the TNT Championship match. So this is Sammy. Guevara. Shout out to Ridwan here. So he was about to originally face the champion, that is Cody Rhodes, but he was taken out of this match due to some medical precaution, COVID. So instead, he's being replaced by his brother Dustin Rhodes. So this was to crown a interim TNT champion here, and they had a little. It was a good enough match uh, from Dustin and Sammy, and Dustin can still go. That is a sight to behold. So, what did you think about this match?
So, Sammy Guevara versus Dustin Rhodes. You know what? This was an interesting matchup, honestly, especially as it was an interim championship title. Sure, I mean, I guess Cody's presence would have made for a better worked match, like quality wise, but because especially since he's younger and fitter than Dustin, right? But you know what? Since Cody was unable to compete due to whatever medical reason, actually that unintentionally created a more interesting angle for this plotline going forward. Since now this is going to be a match for the undisputed TNT title. It's going to be a unification of the title between the interim champion and the current proper reigning champion, which honestly is even better than just like Sammy Guevara having to face Cody Rhodes today itself for like the TNT championship. And something, I would love to see Tony Khan book a ladder match between the two of them for the unification. Kind of how like Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon faced off for the undisputed Intercontinental title at WrestleMania 10. I would love if Tony Khan makes that happen. And you know what? I like the match. It was good. Like, how old is Dustin now? 52, 53, right?
Yeah,
I
about that
think,
is.
yeah. So I think he's the oldest competitor in AEW right now. And for his age, that man can work well. Yeah, I mean, sure. Like, as we saw in the match, it can't be like a fast paced match. That man can't, do like fast paced matches anymore. And obviously, that's understandable. But I liked it, and they established, like they started the match off with a handshake just to establish ki, yes, both of them are like baby faces who are you know crowd like both of them are being rooted for by the crowd. Sammy especially is you know a brilliant worker though, especially working the ring and working the crowd. He didn't take too long to show his inner heel character though. Like for example, when Dustin was trying to slow the match down, Sammy just rested on the corner of the ring on the top ropes, like almost mocking Dustin in a way. And he didn't even do hesitate to do the finger gun thing with Arn Anderson outside the ring, which I honestly thought was good touch, where Arn Anderson also showed him the middle finger. I
Yeah,
don't know if it was improvised or was it planned, but either way, it was brilliant, honestly.
yeah, yeah. Don't pull out the Glock on the Glock enforcer himself.
Yeah, and I loved it. I fucking loved it. It was hilarious, and it provided like a much needed moment of humor to the match. And yeah, like sure, the match wasn't as fast paced as it would have been if it was Sammy versus Cody. But you know what? Sometimes slow matches are good. And even though it wasn't that slow, Dustin was pretty much up to the task. And you know, at one point, I think Dustin went pretty hard at Sammy's knee, and Sammy did a good job of selling that knee injury. But what I found a bit ridiculous, just a few seconds after that, was Sammy pretending like the knee injury never happened, and just jumping off the top rope for like the double springboard move onto Dustin. But yeah, I think I'm just nitpicking here. Honestly speaking, it was a good match, and Fuego del Sol suddenly appeared. A wild Fuego del Sol appears out of the blue with a table, and it just felt like Sammy was the heel at that moment, because what they were doing was something that heels usually do. Del Sol setting up a table for Sammy to use, and obviously Sammy was the one who took the bump onto the table with Dustin's Canadian Destroyer. And yeah, I think it was, I think the match really, like, that embodied the quality of the match. It was predictable, and yet at the same time, it was fun to watch. It was a good match. The crowd knew what they were getting, and it was pretty obvious that, okay, Sammy is going to win this match, no matter what bumps he's taking. And after like a back and forth of trading pins, Sammy finally got the pin. And I think it was a good match. I just wish they had gone like a bit shorter with the match, like maybe, I don't know, 2-3 minutes shorter. But yeah, like I said, I'm nitpicking, and yeah, I enjoyed the match, and I am honestly really looking forward to the title unification match now. I'm actually, I mean, I feel bad for saying this, but I'm glad that Cody wasn't present to compete. Nothing against Cody, and I hope he, whatever problem he has, he recovers from that soon. But yeah, like Cody versus Sammy today would have, that would have been it. It would have been the end of the storyline. But now we can see something in the future. Title unification match is like more interesting, more fascinating. So yeah, this is what I thought about the match.
Yeah, I think you laid it out very well. The nitpicking parts. Like, I get the fact that Sammy is not that good at, selling and, saying the story in that way. And actually, this Fuego del Sol getting involved, bit was unnecessary, you can say, to the story that they were telling between Dustin and Sammy. And that table spot, I don't know, man. You should be doing table spots again after what I saw at Dynamite with Ray Phoenix.
Oh God, don't remind me of that, please. That was bad. That was terrible. Oh my God, I really hope Phoenix recovers from that soon, man.
Uh,
That looked bad, man. I was like, for a minute, I didn't even realize. I went back and watched it like a few minutes later, and I thought, oh no, this looks bad. I was
s-
genuinely scared back then.
yeah, same here, same here. Okay, we also had both these men exchanging their finishers. Like Dustin initially hit the crossroads, Sammy kicks out. Sammy hit the GTH, Dustin kicks out, and at the end, Dustin was going for back to back crossroads. And what happened? And then he was about to do the Tiger Driver 98, but Sammy escapes. And then you described the exchanging of roll up, and Sammy was the one who got the successful pin. And there you go, man. Sammy is your interim TNT champion, and even they mentioned that they were in the future they are going to do a Tata unification match. So kind of makes sense.
Yes. Honestly, I am a sucker for, finishers being hit and, the opponent kicking out. I don't know, it's just something about, like the opponent kicking out from, not all the time, but let's say 7 out of 10 times, if the opponent kicks out from a finisher, I pop for it. Like when Sammy kicked out from two back-to-back crossroads. I think it was two crossroads Dustin gave him, right? I think so, yes.
Yeah.
And Dustin kicked out from Sammy's GTH. And I was like, I wasn't expecting the kick out from the GTH, honestly, but when he did, I was like, holy shit, this is this is interesting. But yeah, uh, I think although there are some finishers which need to be protected, like for example, One Winged Angel, and the likes of which I don't think they have been kicked out from yet. But yeah, going back to this match, yeah, we finally have two TNT champions. One is Cody, and one is the interim champion, Sammy Guevara. And yeah, after the match, Daniel Garcia came onto the ring, and yeah, looks like they have booked a title match between Sammy Guevara and Daniel Garcia next week. And you know what? I hope Sammy Guevara keeps defending the title against other people for a while. I'm totally okay with it because that delays the inevitable match between Sammy and Cody. And because I'm hoping for that match to happen in the next pay-per-view now. I don't really want it to be on TV. So like Revolution is what, 2 months away, right? So
Yeah, it
yeah,
is.
yeah. So if they can put it off till Revolution, although I don't think they will because 2 months is kind of a long time for people to wait. And Tony Khan has a habit of usually putting these matches on TV itself. So I think we'll probably get this match on TV itself. But you know what? I'm so fucking glad Jericho didn't run in to save Sammy from Daniel Garcia because holy shit, I was just apprehensive about that. I was just scared. Oh shit, Jericho is going to run in now with the whole Judas music playing and the crowd singing along.
Just
And
wait.
I'm glad he didn't.
Yeah, just wait till Dynamite, and your wish will come true.
Oh God, no.
But
Because
they did mention that Daniel Garcia has problem with the inner circle, and hence he went after Sammy here.
yeah, I mean, I don't mind it being a feud between just the two of them, Sammy and Daniel Garcia. And even if like Santana and Ortiz get involved, I am okay with it. But like I'm at this point, I'm just tired of Jericho inserting himself into everything. Like this whole Eddie Kingston run. Eddie Kingston is having like a really hot run at the moment. And Jericho's just putting himself in there. I hate how he's leeching off of other people's pushes, like just trying to be relevant again. I mean, come on, man, you don't need to do that. Let Eddie have his moment, yeah. Come on, just give the man some breathing space. It's not fair to Eddie. Like Jericho is like a mega superstar. Like the whole world knows him. Eddie Kingston doesn't really have that, honestly. Let him get his push. So yeah, like at this point, the inner circle is a detriment to people to like Sammy and Santana and Ortiz. Honestly, Santana and Ortiz should have gotten a tag team run, which they never got. Sammy has had a fairly successful singles run, but you know, I hope they don't like bring the whole faction together again just for this purpose.
Mm, I don't know, man. I hope Jericho puts over Kingston. I hope, or at least Kingston will, just destroy Jericho on the mic.
I hope Jericho and Kingston have a I Quit match, which Kingston wins. I really hope for that. I mean, I don't know. It's just the sadist in me. Either I Quit or Last Man Standing match because like both of them will require Kingston to beat the shit out of Jericho, and I'm totally okay with that. As terrible as that makes me sound, yeah, sure. Why not? They should book it. Like turn Jericho heel. Either turn Jericho heel or just make him disappear. I don't like babyface Jericho at all. He is cringe. He is terrible. He can't cut a promo as a babyface.
The latter would be the only fair enough thing to do at this point.
Yeah, you're right, I guess.
But moving on, we have the
Yes.
FTW Championship, being defended here. So this is Absolute Ricky Starks, the champ, defending against Matt Seidel. This was very a last moment, like this match got booked at the very last moment, like at Rampage itself. So this was short, and Like really didn't care for this match, but they were having a solid match here, I guess.
Yeah, so like you said, it was a last minute booking, and yeah, it was pretty random. It was just shoehorned in because I mean, AEW doesn't really have many titles remaining to be defended. Most of them were like, fought already on Dynamite, like we already mentioned. But yeah, it was a short match. I think it was like about 8 or 9 minutes long. Either way, it was under 10 minutes.
9 minutes.
But yes, 9 minutes. But yeah, I liked the match. It was like storytelling wise, booking wise, there much or any of a build up to it because Ricky Starks just like 24 hours ago on Rampage, I mean, it was taped 3 days before that, but yeah, you get my point. Yeah, like just a day before we got to see Ricky Starks announce the match, and I was like, okay, they have to put something in, right? So yeah, like the match began, and it was a good, solid match, honestly, like you said. Like I wasn't really into the storytelling, but for what it was decent. Matt Seidel got in some good offense at the beginning. And Ricky Starks, you know what? I like him. I like that guy. He is very underrated, like both in ring and like, character wise. And yeah, sure, he is FTW champion, but he's been criminally underutilized in the company. And yeah, like both of them, both Starks and Seidel are solid performers, solid mid carders. Seidel is like, pretty good at the high flying stuff, and Starks has like, good like in ring ability. He can like, he's solid on the mat. But I just feel bad for Seidel most of the time because he's not even a mid carder, he's more of a lower mid card at this point. And like, this Battle of the Bells just felt like, uh, something which was like given to him like a consolation prize, okay, like you can have one spot on like a super card. I think this is going to be your first and last ever time you're going to get something like this. And Taz was there on commentary, which is always nice. I enjoy that man on commentary. It's always welcome. And I think the length of the match was perfect. I think if it had gone on any longer, it would have risked being something that tried too hard to please us, or like, it would have gotten boring, and nobody really wanted to see the match anyway. And I think Tony Khan knew it too, like since it was shoehorned in at the last minute. So I think 9 minutes was perfect for it. And yeah, the match ended, and obviously Ricky Starks is going to retain the title. That was like a foregone conclusion. Matt Seidel isn't going to win anything anytime soon. Even if they introduce like a new title to the company, like I don't know, no, like a lower card title, I don't think Matt Seidel is winning that one either, unfortunately for him. And of course, like Ricky Starks pinned Matt, and then Hobbs and Starks started to beat the shit out of Matt Seidel. And yeah, his friends Lee Moriarty comes up, and Dante Martin comes up to like build up his match against Powerhouse Hobbs for Dynamite next week. Also, is it just me, or does Dante Martin look a bit more buff now compared to before?
Uh, I don't know. If if he is getting buff, then good for him. Then he's putting on size.
Yeah, because I mean, like when he was standing head to head with Powerhouse Hobbs, I mean, sure, like it's not going to be, he's not going to be as big as Powerhouse Hobbs, but even then it looked like, okay, you know what, this will be a decent competition because he doesn't look like the skinny kid who he looked like in the past anymore.
But
So yeah, like yeah, go on.
yeah, like it was good for what it was, the match, and I think this is it's been a while since we seen Ricky Starks wrestling again. Like I don't even remember the last time he wrestled. It's been months.
I think the last time he wrestled was to bury Brian Cage in that. I think it was the FTW title match only. I think it was a street fight or something, right? Where
Yes.
I think it was the Brian Cage's last match so far for the company, as far as I remember. I don't really remember seeing Brian Cage on TV
I,
after that match.
I don't know.
Honestly,
I don't know where he is.
yeah, I feel bad. I feel terrible for Brian Cage, and I'm really hoping that Ricky Starks, doesn't have to go through the same again. Is it like the FTW title curse that whoever holds the FTW title, whoever is in Team Taz, is doomed to like repeat this fate? I really hope not, because like Brian Cage deserved to be booked well. I don't know what happened. Why did they do what they did? And where is he now?
I think he
I
lost in the
think,
shuffle. That's it.
yeah. And like, I don't think AEW has a lot to do for big men. At least, like, yeah, sure, there are a couple of big men who are, put into like solid mid card feuds and upper card feuds. But Brian Cage is one of those big men who just, you know, didn't fit in, I suppose, like in an era of like, high flyers and cruiserweights. Although, like, I mean, he does do the high flying too. If, but yeah, and I think like his wife posting that video on Instagram or wherever she didn't help matters either. Where she complained about him not being used properly.
I don't know the situation. Know what's going on
Oh,
with him right now. I think I heard it somewhere that he's WWE bound.
um, he could be, but like another problem with that is, like, Vince McMahon will, you know, it's like at the same time he is a Vince kind of person, but he isn't. Like, sure, like the big muscly man is totally Vince's kind of thing, but at the same time he's not an entertainer. Vince also wants an entertainer on his company, and Brian Cage isn't one. He's more of a wrestler's wrestler. So that could prove to be a problem. I think he will probably end up going to Impact,
Again,
or yeah, I don't see any other place for Brian Cage right now. AEW, I think he's done there, and Impact, returning to Impact is the only thing that makes sense for him. I don't know if he is. Although he could go to New Japan too, I suppose.
I think that could work.
Yeah, like, fresh, change of scenery for Brian Cage. Going to Japan, competing in Wrestle Kingdom and Dominion. Yeah, sure. You know what? I would like to see him do that.
But back to this thing with Ricky Starks. You talked about so yeah, Ricky Starks won this match with the Rochambeau beating Side earlier. Then we had the post-match beatdown with Hobbs and Starks, and Lee Moriarty came for the save but gets taken down by the big man Hobbs. So this led to Dante Martin, showing up. He gets rid of Starks and went face to face with Hobbs here, and at the end it was Dante Martin standing tall. So these two have a match, Hobbs and Ricky Starks. No, Dante Martin at the upcoming Dynamite, and should be good, man.
Yeah, I am looking forward to that match. It should be interesting, especially because Team Taz have been kind of an afterthought for a long time, especially after that feud with Darby Allin and Sting that they had. They were pretty much buried for a while. So it's good to see them, being booked again.
Uh, no, man. You just said Team Test stock has went down.
Yeah, it has, but it had gone down after last year when they had that feud with Sting and Darby Allin. So like after that feud, their stock had gone down a little bit for a while.
Come on, man. The Team Test stock has went super high since we saw the debut of Hook,
Oh
the
yes,
Crooks.
after Hook. Oh yeah, yeah, Hook. We're all hookers here. Hook is super talented. I really like that kid. He can go in the ring. And I am also liking how he's been booked so far. I really hope they continue like booking these kind of random matches for him, because it's like they just want him to showcase his talent now, and it's too early to book him in any kind of feud, high profile or otherwise right now. So just like have him do matches, like let him pad his stats for a while, like um, get better and better, and he's pretty good. He's pretty good at what he does. And yeah, I am looking forward to see how Hook goes. I think within like by the end of this year, he could be even wearing the TNT Championship belt, probably.
Let's start with the FTW belt.
I mean, yeah, FTW belt also. But the problem with the FTW belt is, I mean, do AEW themselves even give a damn about the belt? Does Tony Khan even remember that this is a belt that they have, because it's not officially recognized, like Taz likes to repeat so many times. It's like his own belt, and it's like just a fuck the world, and like like a rebellious kind of thing, whatever he has done, like 20 plus years ago, that he created. But yeah, I would like to see the belt get a bit more recognition, and I would also like to see the belt go out of Team Taz, be held by somebody outside of Team Taz at some point, just to like make it more interesting. Because I mean, so far it doesn't seem like it's going to happen. I think like the next natural, person probably will be Powerhouse Hobbs, who is going to be wearing it. And even I don't know if he's going to be defeating Ricky Starks for that, or I don't know how it's really going to happen.
We'll have to wait and see, man. We'll have to wait and see. But shall we move on to the main event?
Oh yes.
So this is for the AEW Women's World Championship. This is Dr. Britt Baker, TMD, defending against Riho. I thought this was a fine match. Like you can't actually, underestimate Rio here because she could give you that underrated sleeper banger match sometimes.
Um. Yeah, you're not wrong, but see, I mean, I liked the match. Like you said, it was a fine match. It's just I ever since I've just had some problem with like Riho ever being like put in the title picture, in the main event picture. Like I was glad that they did the made the women's title match the main event, but I don't know. I mean, I'm not really happy with like Riho being put in the title picture so many times, being put in the main event. And I just like you said, like Riho can give out some banger matches and whatnot, but I guess it's just a size that makes everything very unbelievable for me. She's she's so tiny, man. I think my 7-year-old niece is the same size as Riho. And I mean, look, I don't hate Riho. It's just nothing against her. She's fine at what she does, like the whole, like, she's fast. She can do like, the flippy stuff, high flying stuff. She's good at that stuff. But after a point, it just seems unbelievable. I remember like, when I was watching AEW from the beginning, and she, I think she had defeated Nyla Rose to become the inaugural champion, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, and it was just I don't know. I just felt I was shocked because Nyla Rose is huge, and like her having to sell, like Riho's moves and finishers and whatnot. It just felt kind of like, sure. I mean, we are supposed to suspend our disbelief, but that's like it's only as far as we can do it, right? I mean, Riho defeating Nyla Rose in like such a manner just feels weird, and like to make her the inaugural women's champion. I mean, I think it was just Kenny Omega and Tony Khan, like fulfilling their Japanese, like their uh, like fandom, like being fans of NJPW and like Japanese wrestling, and that's fine. But they could have made Hikaru Shida the opening champion instead of like later on, if they really wanted to do that. Anyway, like back to the match. So yeah, I think it was a good match, and like when Britt Baker came into the ring, I like that they continue to build on the tension between her and Jamie Hayter, when especially that bit where Rebel handed the title over to Hayter to show off to the crowd, but Hayter just like plopped it down onto the ring. And Britt Baker noticed that, and like she just chose not to say or do anything, which was also a nice touch, like instead of like getting all aggressive on Jamie Hayter. And yeah, I I liked the match. It was good. It was like it was very well paced. It was like slow and fast where it needed to be. Like Riho. I mean, I do have some prejudice against Riho, but like credit where it's due. This was a good match. I cannot lie. I liked the match. I enjoyed it, and yeah, I mean, I really do hope this is the last time we see Riho in the title picture. But yeah, for what it's worth, she did good. And Britt Baker, as always, I mean, not as always, but like ever since she's improved, she has, she gave like a really good match, both in ring, like, skills wise, character wise. Although I do have like this match, I don't know if I'm nitpicking, but what was that thing at the end, like the whole confusion with Rebel and Jamie Hayter doing the whole title exchange near the end, and like, confusing Britt Baker and Rebel getting thrown out. I mean, I felt that was unnecessary. Like the thing you said with about the TNT match with Fuego del Sol bringing out the table. I mean, that was unnecessary too. But I mean, this I just felt annoyed at, because it just distracted from what was a really good match. Honestly, it kind of like just interrupted the whole flow of the match for me and took away from the overall quality of the match. The whole like I get that they were trying to build tension, between Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter, like by the whole shenanigans that were happening with Hayter throwing the title in the ring and Rebel taking it back. But it just made no sense. Hell, even the commentator said it, but I guess that was more of a kayfabe thing. But yeah, I don't know. It was just weird and unnecessary. I wish they hadn't done that. And it brought down what was otherwise a really good match instead.
And I don't get why they are. I think they are very eager to break up Jamie Hater and Britt Baker.
Yeah, they are. And but like they could have gone about it in a like better way, like sure after the match ended they hugged anyway, right? All three of them hugged each other once again. And I don't know, like I'm sure it's not the end of the story. There will be some more shit that's going to happen between the two of them. Probably with like, finally Jamie Hayter having had enough of Britt Baker's shit and like, turning on her and attacking her at some point.
Yeah, you
But
could
yeah, it just
just yeah, you can really do the breakup after Britta's dropped the woman's title, in my honest opinion.
mm, yeah, they can, but I don't know when that's going to happen. And honestly, I don't want that to happen soon. I really want Britt Baker to hold on to the title for as long as she can, because I don't know. I mean, I won't say the women's roster is completely terrible or like completely like void of talent. There are a few good wrestlers in there: Thunder Rosa, Chris Statlander, Ruby Soho, Serena Deeb. But yeah, speaking of Thunder Rosa, she is the obvious next choice to be champion. If somebody is going to dethrone Baker, it has to be her.
It's having a revolution.
I I don't want it to be revolution. I want it to be like a bit later than that. I want Baker to hold the title for at least a year. So double or nothing.
I don't know. That is, I think 2 months is enough for to build Thunder Rosa versus Britt Baker.
Yeah, it is. Or maybe they can like build Jamie Hayter versus Britt Baker right now, because that's already like in the works, right? So Thunder Rosa can have something else to do. Oh yeah, Thunder Rosa has Mercedes Martinez, right?
Yeah, she got a feud with Mercedes Martinez now.
Yeah, so I guess Thunder Rosa can occupy herself with Mercedes Martinez for now. And like I think after Revolution, like a few weeks after Revolution, they can finally start building up Thunder Rosa versus Britt Baker. And that would be a great match. I would love to watch that at Double or Nothing. And Thunder Rosa absolutely deserves the title. Like she is the obvious natural successor to Britt Baker. She is a great worker. She has a lot of charisma. I would love to see her as champion. But yeah, and speaking of the women's division as a whole, Tony Storm has to be signed whenever her non-compete is up, because she's a good wrestler and AEW desperately need as many talented women's wrestlers as they can add to their roster. Like I said, there are a few good women's wrestlers, but not enough, honestly. Ty Conti is decent, but she's still young. She's still learning. I am not a fan of Bunny. Sorry, I was going to say Ali. Bunny or Penelope Ford or a lot of the other wrestlers, honestly. I don't even remember most of them.
But we'll have to wait and see where they go with this whole build up and stuff. But getting back to this match, like we said, it was very decentish and really good near falls with Rio getting involved. No, sorry. Uh, I was saying Rio. Jamie Hayter, and who's the other? Yeah, Reba.
Rebel.
Reba getting involved. So Reba actually gets kicked out by the referee. And like I said, Rio actually got some great near falls, almost out. Rio's going to get the victory here, but at the end, Britt Baker locked in the lockjaw, and there you go. Britt retains. And yeah, that was Battle of the Belts, the very first Battle of the Belts.
Yes, the very first. And I think it was a good show for what it was. Yeah, sure. Like we mentioned early on, the card itself was a bit, disappointing on paper, underwhelming. But with the matches that they had, they gave us a good show. We can. It wasn't a waste of time, honestly, as one would have expected. At least we could at least watch the show and think, okay, that was good. At least 1 hour well spent, I guess.
But as we come to the end of the review, where can these guys find you? Are you on social media, by the way?
Not really. No, I do have Instagram. I am on Instagram as Kavit91, but that's it. I don't really use social media that much. I am kind of a recluse, a hermit almost in that sense. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram. My handle is Kavit91, and that's it. That's my only social media presence.
And you can find Slam Up Wrestling on Twitter at Slam Up W, Instagram at Slam Up Wrestling. You can catch this review in Anchor and Spotify as well. This was the AEW Battle of the Belts review, and see you guys next time.
See you guys.